What's up guys, it's Lily with SF Official, and today's video is going to be psychiatric service dogs and what you should know. So in this video, we are going to cover the process of finding out if you're qualified for one, some of the steps involved in getting a psychiatric service dog, and my own experience having one. Now there's only so much information that can be covered in one video, so if you do end up with questions, please feel free to leave a comment below and I will do my best to answer those or provide the resources of where you can find that information. And with that, let's get started. I thought it was only right to have my little buddy here with me to help with the video today. So this is Billy and this is my psychiatric service dog. He's a little excited right now. So before we dive into the content, I do want to say there are other animals besides dogs that can be service animals, but for the sake of this video, we're going to be talking about specifically service dogs. Now, before we go further, I also want to mention the difference between service dogs, emotional support dogs, and therapy dogs. Service dogs are individually trained to perform tasks to assist people with their disabilities. These can be physical impairments, medical conditions, and psychiatric issues. Service dogs are protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act, which we'll get into a little bit later. Now, emotional support dogs. These are to provide comfort through companionship and aren't necessarily trained in any specific tasks. Emotional support dogs are not protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Therapy dogs provide emotional support in group settings, so that would be the dogs that are used in hospitals or schools, and they're not necessarily meant for individual disability care. So what is a psychiatric service dog? A PSD is trained specifically to help individuals with mental health disabilities. The tasks that that service animal provides will be tailored to your needs specifically in order to mitigate the negative effects of that disability. So some of these tasks can include deep pressure therapy, interrupting anxiety behavior, creating personal space, guiding you to exits in stressful situations, nightmare interruption, medication reminders, and even retrieving comfort items. Now, this is not the only things that they can do, but this is just some of them just for reference. So let's move on to how do you know if you qualify for a psychiatric service dog and what are some things you should probably consider if you're wanting to get one. Number one, you must have a qualifying disability under the ADA. Now, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, a PSD is intended for individuals with a mental health disability that substantially impacts one or more major life activity. Now, if you're curious if your diagnosis qualifies under the ADA for a service dog, I would highly recommend going on their website, reading through the list of diagnoses and seeing where you fall or if yours is specifically listed on there. I'll go ahead and provide a link in the description below so you can quickly access that. 2, choosing the right breed for you. So I highly recommend seeking out reputable breeders who specialize in service dogs. Now, it can be expensive, I understand, but there are grants, sponsorships, and programs that can assist you with getting a service animal. Now, personally, I did go to a reputable breeder. However, I did not go to one that specialized in service dogs specifically, and I feel like it was perfectly fine, but I think that is a good starting point if this is new to you. One of the reasons for this is getting informed and finding out what breed is best for you. So I thought I always wanted a German Shepherd. They are very high energy, very stimuli driven, and we actually have a family pet that is a German Shepherd and she's amazing, but that would not have been best for me and the needs that I have. So after doing some research, I decided to go with a black lab. When talking to the breeder, she said that based off of what I had expressed, that she believed it would be a good fit. So in their formative and puppy years, yes, they can be quite energetic and little menaces. Billy absolutely was. But as they develop and are trained, they're very calm, intelligent, sensitive, and that's exactly what I was looking for in the temperament of the dog that I needed to perform the tasks for my disability. 3, let's talk certification. So you're not legally required to certify your psychiatric service dog, but you do have to demonstrate that you have a legitimate mental health diagnosis, and this can be done by having a letter from your doctor stating your diagnosis and that having a service animal would be beneficial in mitigating some of the negative effects. Personally, I do recommend certifying your psychiatric service dog. It is not that expensive. It's about $100. I will link the website that I use down below, but they provide you with a certificate and a number. They also provide you with your personal ID card with your information as the handler and your pet's information. I have Billy's attached to his vest, and if you're ever questioned or if there's a problem, someone can use that number to look up online through the website, the handler and the service animal, which just helps in those moments where you might be dealing with someone who is unfamiliar or not properly educated on the topic of service animals. Now, I do want to mention in public, there are times when individuals or establishments may approach you and it might be a little bit awkward or come across as offensive, but my opinion is this is a perfect opportunity to educate those individuals, and you're not going to do that by snapping back at them, but certifying them. They also give you these little business cards that talk about what is a service animal, what questions they are legally allowed to ask you, and it's just really helpful. So I think it's really important to educate. I think it's really important to know what the laws are. That way, if you do come in contact with somebody, you can diffuse the situation and put them at ease, as well as mitigate the anxiety you experience when dealing with an uncomfortable situation. Fourth is going to be training. So the ADA does allow you to personally train your service dog. Now, if you feel confident with that, then that's wonderful. However, I would highly recommend seeking out a reputable trainer in your area that you can go ahead and enroll your dog in. I did put Billy in professional training, and I am so grateful that I did, because there's some minor things that I did teach him at home, and I am not a professional dog trainer. So down the line, as he developed, I realized that there were certain things I could have done a little bit differently that could have streamlined the process. Also, so trainers are trainers for a reason, and they're equipped with the exact pathway to make sure that they can maximize the tasks and results so you can really benefit from your service dog. Number 5 is commitment. So having a service animal or any pet really is a big commitment. You want to make sure that you have the time and the energy to dedicate into bonding with that animal, making sure that you are consistent with their training, making sure that you're reinforcing the training, especially if you're getting a professional and you're paying for it. It's not cheap. So you want to make sure that you're prepared for that responsibility. I waited to get Billy when I was at a point where I was on my own, in my own home, and in a position where I had the time to really maximize this experience. Number 6, let's talk about legal rights. So once you qualify, your PSD has legal rights to all public spaces under the ADA. Essentially, wherever you go, that dog goes. Service animals are federally protected, and I think of it like medical equipment. Someone can't tell you that you can't have your wheelchair. Someone can't tell you that you can't have your oxygen tank. I understand when it comes to animals, people view them as pets, but in these instances, it is a medical necessity. Now, kind of going back to what I talked about when it comes to educating people that you come in contact with, establishments and individuals are not allowed to ask for documentation on your medical diagnosis. They're also not allowed to ask you to have your dog perform a task in order to show them that it's a service dog, but here are some things that they can ask you. They can ask you, is the service dog required because of a disability? And they can ask you what tasks that service dog performs. Number 7, let's talk about your responsibility. So number 1, it is your responsibility that your service dog is under control. So no outlandish behavior, hyperactivity, aggressiveness. They're properly restrained unless having them on a leash is something that impacts your disability. They also need to be well behaved and under control in public places. Now, there are some situations where you could face penalties, fines, and liability if your service animal is acting unruly, which again goes back to the commitment, the training, making sure that you put all the time, effort, and resources necessary to ensure that you don't find yourself in trouble or have any issues when living life with your service animal in public. Lastly, it's also your responsibility that they are housebroken and well taken care of. So my personal experience with having a psychiatric service dog, so my doctor recommended for years that I consider a service animal, and I just didn't feel like I was in a point in my life where that was doable, where I was living, traveling all the time. I just wasn't sure if that would be the right choice, but I finally, after a few years, went ahead and did it, and I think it's one of the best mental health mental health decisions I have ever made. So Billy has done so much for me, even apart from his tasks. So his tasks are in line with my anxiety and depression, and so he performs deep pressure therapy, nightmare interruption, and anxiety interruption. Now, apart from his specified tasks, having this service dog and creating a bond, we are pretty much inseparable. So I don't have to speak. I don't have to communicate what I'm feeling or my issues. He picks up on it. He engages with me. He knows exactly what to do, when to be playful, when to be soft. And that has helped me in a variety of ways, as well as responsibility. So it's actually much better now, but before, when I would go through depressive episodes where I wouldn't shower for days or take care of myself, it was easy to dismiss and brush off and make excuses. But when I had Billy, it would force me to get up, to feed him, to take him outside. So it was actually forcing me to move around. It was forcing me to get out of the bed, because at the end of the day, I couldn't justify letting this dog starve or letting him suffer in any way or be neglected due to my inability to overcome myself at the time. So without even really realizing it at first, it really pushed me. It's helped me. It's also given me opportunity because of his unconditional love and softness towards me. It lets me be vulnerable. It lets me be caring. It lets me do that in a very safe way where I can feel those emotions, express them without any hesitation. Billy has come with me everywhere, on airplanes, trips, work trips, road trips, holidays, pretty much everything. Especially in environments where I'm anxious or uncomfortable, having him there makes everything a lot easier. It also gives me something to focus on, and I know he's paying attention to me, he's got my back, and I think it's one of the best things I ever did. Now, I will say, personally, I baby him like crazy. I know he's a working dog, but I do want to make sure he still enjoys his life as a dog without quite even really realizing it. When I put his harness on him, he knows it's work mode. I call him my little soldier. His temperament changes. He's very much more in tune. He's also a lot calmer, docile, and he knows when we come home and everything is calm, I'll take it off and he can play, run around, and be the menace that he still is sometimes. So I know there's a difference of opinion of some people saying that service dogs are strictly working dogs, they need to be treated as such. For me, I have found a really good balance with having both a pet to love, but also a service animal with a job. The last thing I want to mention, and I kind of touched on it earlier, is people. So I've seen a lot of videos that go viral where handlers can get offensive and combative when approached by people who are just simply uneducated, and I have had my fair share of very awkward or weird or seemingly offensive situations. I had a guy at the airport walk up and say, "Well, you don't look physically disabled, so it must be mental. How crazy are you?" And it was a little shocking, and I wanted to say very, but I didn't. Instead, I just educated him on the differences and went about my day. So if you're considering getting a psychiatric service dog, just keep in mind that people might ask you some off-the-wall questions. Some people might not be understanding, and unfortunately there are individuals out there who take advantage of the service dog angle when they have no business doing so, and that gives people a bad taste or a previous bad experience, and you could be the person that changes that by simply providing education and being an open source that can turn that narrative around for yourself and for the next person. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed the content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon to find out when we put out our next video. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below. And with that, we'll see you next time.